All right, let's see. No, there we go. Or so I thought. Yes, indeed, something is sticky. All right, while sticky can be tricky or even sometimes icky, here it is all about creating the conditions for a habit to stick around even when you no longer are there. When done, you have made yourself redundant in the best sense of the word, and that is the hallmark of any great coach, consultant, or other agent of change. So what about mob programming then? Yes. What about mob programming then? Well, if you have been living under a rock for the past decade or so, you might not have heard about it. If so, you can see it as the natural evolution of extreme programming's concept of pair programming, only scaling that pair that was working on a coherent piece of the puzzle into an entire team working and solving the puzzle together. And if that does not make any sense whatsoever to you, then perhaps you've been living under yet another rock for the past quarter of a century and have no idea what extreme programming is. To put it bluntly, it is real agile, firmly grounded in the practice of doing the work at a scale where it makes sense. And in the interest of always being kind and time, I will omit an exposé of what I think constitutes fake agile. Now, mob programming is not a panacea. It's not the single solution to all that ails you or your organization. That said, I have come across plenty of folks greatly enjoying working as a real team, solving real problems through real collaboration. Your mileage may vary. All right, and on that note, I am your most humble servant, Lennart Fridén. I have been practicing, teaching, and generally espousing the virtues of mob programming ever since 2013, when I was introduced to it here at Agila Sverige by Ville Svärd and Tobias Anderberg. And later that year, I fully got on board and got hooked on it by its own father and my good friend, Woody Sewell. For the rest of this short talk, I will simply assume that you too are on board the mob programming train. Perhaps you've even given mob programming a try, and now you want to move beyond that, turn it into a good habit within your context, be it a single team or an entire organization. What do we need to make that happen? Let's have a look at a few things that I consider to be prerequisites. Surveying the land. We first need to ask ourselves, are we even allowed to mob program? Are we stuck in a context where a team is not in charge of its own way of working? But merely being allowed is not enough to turn anything into a habit that sticks. It needs to be encouraged. It is so much easier to bring about a meaningful change if the powers that be actually want to see that change happen, rather than oppose it or merely tolerate it. Look for those contexts. A telltale sign is when management spends less time managing and more time giving teams enough mandate to make things work. And when the given mandate is not enough, a good manager, a servant leader, steps in to cut any and all red tape hindering progress. This can be everything from providing the desired access and equipment to refurnishing the office, be it physical or virtual in nature. Right? We have our avid and most helpful managers cheerleading us, and we have made sure that the developer environment for the mob is at least as pleasant as that of an individual team members, preferably more so. But we are lacking something. Ah yes, our willing participants. No matter what change we would like to see, no matter what good habit we would like to instill in others, it cannot be done well without their voluntary participation. Coercing someone to be part of a mob against their will is just as reprehensible as forcing a collaborative soul to perpetually be working on their own. Neither scenario will spark joy or productivity. But, you may say, we have the teams we have. Even after giving mob programming an honest try, some are wholly on board with it, others are utterly against it, but most are split to a varying degree. There are several ways to handle this scenario, such as selecting for the collaborative trait when hiring or reforming teams based on how they want to work. But alas, we lack the time here and now to dig into them fully, at an open space perhaps. Now, let me ask you this though. A team that does not want to work together on the same problem at the same time, is that truly a team at all? And if some or most of your teams fall into that category or are like that, would it not be more honest to call them for what they are? Groupings of individuals in the organizational chart who might be working on similar things. Mob programming is about collaborative work, not sticking to static charts, providing an illusion of a company structure. Do not let the latter stand in the way of the former. With our prerequisites in place, now that we have our fertile soil where we are not only allowed, but encouraged, not only managed, but given a mandate, not only grouped together, but gravitating towards other like-minded collaborative souls, we can attempt to make collaboration a habit. How do we do that? To me, it helps to identify a few key roles. While these roles are described in singular, they need not be tied to single individuals. They just need to be fulfilled. The outsider is just that. Someone from the outside, providing the initial spark. It is less about appealing to authority and more about external inspiration and validation. They are the example to refer to when selling your vision to the rest of your team and organization. After all, it's mighty hard being a prophet in your own hometown. But we all know the power of success stories from elsewhere. And the outsider's influence can be intense and profound, but it is short-lived and not enough to turn anything into a habit that sticks. The insider is the one actively cultivating the habit, partaking in the daily work, while guiding others to sustain and support the practice. Often this will be you in your context. If you're a technical coach, you might already be doing this, like guiding and mentoring a team to practice test-driven development. It is the consistent, continuous, conscious act of growing a team's habit. But it would be all for naught if not for the third, final, and most important role, that of the first follower. The first follower within any context is that brave individual or individuals that joins you on the dance floor that you up until now have been the sole occupant of. They are the ones providing the internal validation that what you're attempting is not as bizarre as it might have first seemed. They are the ones that will tag team with you during the day, keeping the mob energized, on track and going. And they are the ones that will keep the collaboration growing and thriving after you have left to spread the word that there are better ways of working than alone and on your own. Identifying these early can make all the difference. If there's one message, one single thing I want you to take to heart and consider, it is this. Do not attempt this on your own. This might sound preposterous, given the nature of mob programming, but there's a difference between practicing and creating the conditions for it to flourish. All too often we are tempted by our hubris that if we can only show people things, they will pick it up all by themselves. If I only introduce my team to this superior practice, they will pick it up. If I only. No. Together we create the conditions for a good thing, such as mob programming, to stick. And together we practice it until it becomes a habit even without us, because it takes a village to make it stick. Thank you.